Good evening. We're going to get started here if everybody wants to grab a seat. I would like to welcome everyone to our final forum, number 4. We have been busy and it's been a good turnouts for each one, and we're glad that you guys are here tonight. So I'm going to just give you a little synopsis of how this is going to go. We will have the 2 senator candidates that will go first, and then they will come down, and then the 6 state representative candidates will come up. They will go down, and then Judge Goodwine will be able to speak. So we want to thank you for coming again, and let me introduce to you Christy Middleton, who is our moderator for tonight, and Cecile Schubert. We just want to thank you so much for being here and for all the time that you have given us, And we just would ask now for Jared and Susan to come and have a seat.
Thank you, Mindy, and I do remind everyone that we will give each of our candidates an opportunity to make opening statements, and then we will have questions that both of the candidates will answer, and then we will continue with some individual questions chosen at random that each of the candidates will answer individually. You both ready? Thank you for being here this evening. We will begin with 1 minute for each of you to make an opening statement, and we will start with Mr. Carpenter.
I'll give you a 15-second and then a stop.
And I know she'll hold us to it, too.
She will. You don't want to mess with the time.
I've seen her in action before.
Don't make us come off this table.
I won't, trust me. Well, I want to start off by saying it's been a great opportunity to serve for the last 8 years. Jared Carpenter, Senator for the 34th District, which is Madison, Rockcastle, and Southern Fayette. It's been a really neat opportunity. And I look forward to continue that opportunity. I'll say that I feel like I'm in a hurry because I just left a job site, come here, and my son's 8th grade football night that I walk out on the field is tonight at 7 o'clock. So if you see me kind of scrambling around there, that's why I'm doing so. But it's been a great opportunity to serve. I look forward to continue to work on the things that are important to Madison County, and I look forward to the forum tonight. This is always a neat event for everybody to hear comments and concerns and issues, and I appreciate the Chamber for putting it on, and for the folks that always are in attendance, and for people willing to put their name on the ballot. This is not an easy time to be on a ballot to decide you want to serve for public office. It's trying, it's tough on your family, it's tough on your personal life, it's tough on you. But when you have a commitment to want to serve to betterment the community that you love, that you was born and raised in, and you continue to do business in, and your children are going to live in, then you're willing to put yourself out there. So I appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to tonight.
Thank you. We will now have opening remarks from Ms. Haddix.
Sorry. I want to thank everyone and the Chamber for having these forums. They've really been important to us to get to see everybody. I'm Susan Byrne Haddix, the Democratic candidate for the 34th District, Kentucky State Senate. I moved here in '65 with my parents, who were Robert and Shirley Byrne, professors of College of Education at Eastern. I greatly value education and the essential role that public education plays in our nation. My grandfather was a steel mill worker out of Pittsburgh. If it wasn't for my parents' ability to get a college education, they would have been stuck in the Ohio Valley. Instead, they were able to come to this beautiful spot and be professors. That's why it's so important that all Kentucky kids have the right and ability to actually succeed and finish college. We need to prepare them for the future.
Thank you to both of the candidates for their opening statements. We will now begin with a few questions that we will ask both of you to respond to. The first one is, what do you feel are some of the most pressing issues facing your district? And we'll start with Mr. Carpenter.
The what issue?
What do you feel are the most important issues facing your district?
Thank you.
Well, Education has always been an important factor. Ms. Haddix said that. Ms. Haddix was one of my teachers at Madison Southern when I was a student there. So she's aged better than I have. I look much older now. I think it's because of political life. That's why I've got gray hair. You know, education has always been a big part of my life. I'm the only college graduate in my family. My family has been successful because they had a work ethic. But education has made my life much better. It's gave me new opportunities, and I think education has continued to be an important part of that. I think job creation is an important part of why Madison County is so successful. We have a tremendous amount of opportunities for people to have employment, to want to stay here, and that's the issues that are really important to me, is making sure that we create an environment and continue to create an environment for people to have jobs and want to stay in our community, stay here in Madison County to raise their families, because they pay taxes and continue to be able to operate the facilities and the infrastructure that we want to have a great life here in the county.
Thank you. Same question for you, Ms. Haddix. What do you feel are the most pressing issues facing our district?
Well, definitely education for all is a big one, where we had to fight and protest to get fair treatment for our kids, and we still lost a lot of stuff. The pension problem is a big issue, and that goes for just everybody, police, fire, all public workers. That's something that we paid for, we earned it, and I don't think it's right to be bullied and called names just because we want what we earned. Besides education and pension, we really need to work on our environment. Clean water is a resource that won't go, I mean, once we've used it, then it won't be fresh anymore.
Thank you. Our next question will be another that we will ask both candidates to respond to, and we will begin first with you this time, Ms. Haddix. Kentucky is looking for new revenue to pay for priorities. How do you favor more cuts or raising revenue to address this problem?
Probably a little of both. I know that, say last year, we gave away $9.2 billion in tax breaks to big corporations. $9.2 billion would have saved and fixed everything. The jobs created, we ended up with $1.6 million for each job that was created. So that's a program that we really, really need to look at, because that is big revenue. On the other hand, I want to repeal the tax increase that was put through last legislature. Only people that earn more than $250,000 will get a tax break. The rest of us have a tax increase. In fact, if you only earn $100 in 2019, you still have to pay 5% to the state.
Mr. Carpenter, same question. Knowing that Kentucky does not have enough revenue for all priority projects, do you favor more cuts or raising revenue?
Well, I've been there for a little while now, so there's never enough money to go around, let's be honest. That's the biggest problem with all government offices. We have cut things. We've tried to figure out a way to streamline government, to decrease the size of government so it can get out of the way of people's lives. I wasn't in favor, and I didn't love the tax plan that we were able to do this year, but it was a way to generate some new revenue from people that were already paying taxes. Like if you go to your auto mechanic shop, you already paid taxes on your brakes, you didn't pay taxes on the labor. So those facilities already had a mechanism to collect the taxes, but you wasn't being charged on it. We did charge tax on your labor now. So there's some places like that we were able to generate revenue, and with that generation of revenue, we were able to put it back into the general budget to be able to help do some things with pensions. On the tax budget bill that we did pass, we decreased the amount of personal income tax you pay now from 6% to 5%. If you're below the poverty rate in Kentucky, you pay zero tax anyways. That 1 minute is tough.
Goes by quickly. All right, for this next round, again, it'll be another question that both of you will answer, and we'll start with Mr. Carpenter for this one. Do you support the governor's pension proposals? Why or why not?
Well, I have supported some of the pension proposals, but I didn't support the message that the governor proposed. I was up there this year. We voted several times to talk and had discussions about pensions. I was in a room and I was one of 8 people that stood up to my caucus and said, I'm not going to support the pension bill that is presented now because it was affecting people that was retired and that was in the system now. Lots of my friends, I'm 41 years old, lots of my friends have 12 to 15 to 18 years of service, and we was going to affect them. I didn't think that was right. I said, I'm not doing it. I'm not going to stand up for it. And the bill that we passed only affected new hires. The only thing that changed on existing employees is the number of sick days that they can accredit towards their retirement after July of this year. If I had more time, I could tell you that you have just a small amount of window there, but the retirement plan that we presented changed nothing basically for existing employees, and that's after months and months of deliberation. I didn't appreciate the comments that the governor said, nor did I ever say anything like the governor said.
Thank you. Ms. Haddock, same question. Do you support the governor's pension proposals? Why or why not?
No, for several parts of it. I will say through rallying, we got it much, much, much better than where it started. And I thank you for doing that. Otherwise, I'm a math physics major. Part of why I chose to become an educator was because of that pension. I knew that if I worked and I made it 30 years, that I wouldn't be an old lady in a box somewhere. And that's where I really think we need to keep defined benefit plans going for our kids so that we can recruit really good, upstanding teachers like we have been. That's good.
Thank you both. Next question, this will also be answered by both candidates. We'll begin with you, Ms. Haddock, for this round. What is your stance on charter schools and school vouchers?
That's an easy question. I am strongly opposed to any kind of income tax or taxpayers' dollars going to any private business. That is just wrong. Charter schools don't have any oversight, whereas public schools, they have tested and tested and tested and tested and spent billions and billions to test what we already know. And I think that's a lot of waste of money. But charter schools have no thing they have to do. There's no oversight. They don't have to take all the kids. They can pick and choose. So if you have a really poorly behaved special needs kid or any other kid, they don't have to take them. They don't have to deal with people like that. And that's just not fair. I think public money should stay in public things.
Mr. Carpenter, same question.
We voted on a bill to allow charter schools. Let me clarify something. We allowed the ability for charter schools to be opened in Kentucky if they created their own funding mechanism. We offered them no money. They get no taxpayer dollars, nor do we fund them. And the way we allowed it to happen was that they cannot cherry pick. What Ms. Haddock is talking about is cherry picking, going out and picking out the brightest and the best here in Madison County that would pull our test scores down to be able to help that charter school. We put language in that wouldn't allow that to happen. We said if you want to open up a charter school to benefit a community or try to help kids that may not be getting reached, you have to be able to accept anybody. You can't cherry pick. The real reason that we voted on a bill to allow charter schools, Madison County, I'm a project of it, somehow they got me out and they've helped a lot of people and they've got a great program here. But in places like Louisville that you have programs and schools that are continuing to see test scores in the bottom of the nation, we have to do something to try to help those folks. That's why charter schools was, the opportunity was available to be able to see charter schools come into Kentucky. We have 0 opened right now, 0.
Thank you both. We will have one more question that both of you will be asked to answer before we go to a few individual questions. What strategies would you support or encourage to address the opioid drug crisis in our state? And we'll start with Mr. Carpenter.
Well, the biggest issue is, and this affects everybody in this room. You know or have an addict in your family or a family's friend or a neighbor down the road. I mean, it's tragic. It's scary. You talk to our coroner, Mr. Cornelison, you talk to him anytime. he'll tell you, he calls me and says, Jared, we have more deaths right now. Everybody I go to is for an overdose. And so we passed some legislation this past year trying to crack down, not on the addict, but on the dealer and the transporters. That's who we're trying to crack down on. We're trying to make it harder if people want to come across our state line to conduct that kind of business. If they get caught, we want to put them at the bottom of the jail. And that's the legislation that we've been able to pass, to crack down on the transportation and the dealer side of the epidemic that we have. Mike Cole, I talk to him often. I mean, it's unbelievable of the issues that we're having, and we're continuing to try to find ways to solve it. When I first got there, it was pain pills. We did things to help with pain medication. Now we have these chemists in the backyards in a holler somewhere or in Detroit producing heroin and these things that are scary, killing lots of our young folks. And so we've got to continue to spend money and spend the resources, but the things that we've done has been based on the dealers.
Ms. Haddock, same question. What strategies would you support to address the opioid drug crisis in our state?
Well, a lot of people begin addiction due to pain medicine. So one of the things I thought we could do is after surgery or tooth extraction, you get a card kind of like prednisone comes on, where the first day you get 4 and then 3 and 2 and 1, so that you've got an end to where you're going to be using that. I think that might really help. And we have to pay attention to people that are in pain and not judge them, because there are a lot of really injured, hurting people. One idea I've been playing with is if we decriminalize marijuana, we would have a lot of money and a lot of resources that we could move over into going against the harder drugs, the heroin and meth and all that stuff that's out there. It would provide enough, instead of doing all the green grass sweeps, we could save enough money to actually build treatment centers for these people that are being arrested.
Thank you. We will begin with some individual questions, same time limit of 1 minute, but I do remind you, if another candidate has a response, you will have a chance at the end. If there's an issue that you didn't get a question about that you would like to address, we will allow you to do that in your closing remarks. The first question will begin with Ms. Haddock. In terms of voting rights, do you support felons having served their time should have their voter rights restored?
I absolutely do. The thing that makes us Americans is we have the right to vote. And once a person has done their time, for them to come back into our society, we need to let them be part of our society. And that includes being able to vote.
Thank you. Mr. Carpenter, your question. What gun right legislation would you support, or restrictions on gun ownership and licensing?
I've been supportive of gun rights and the Second Amendment rights. I've not supported any type of licensing changes that we have now. I think the concealed carry deadly weapons was a great tool. There's been other ideas that's wanted to come in to where it opens up for everybody. I think we have to be careful with the society we live in now today with mental illness and issues that are going on in our schools, to make sure that we're allowing people to protect themselves, but also not putting the guns in their own hands. I've been very supportive. I'm a guy that's my entire career has been A+ with NRA. I've even had a few articles wrote about me in a Louisville Courier-Journal because I was supportive of it. But and that's kind of, I took it as a badge of honor, to be honest with you, when the Courier-Journal wrote something against me. But I want to be supportive to make sure that we're not those guns don't get in the wrong people's hands. And I think that we're continuing to work on that, because the scary part is if no matter how hard you try to do that, those folks can always get access to guns, and the good people, the harder you make the rules and regulations, they have tougher times to get access to the weapons.
Thank you. Senator Carpenter, we'll begin with you for the next question in this round. Do you believe that there is a need to revamp the tax code? Why or why not? I do. Tax code has not been addressed in, since 1930. And the way our economy is much different than it was in those years. You know, we were a Rust Belt, they called us, lots of industrial jobs, and that's the only thing that our economy was based on. We have a lot more industries, we have a lot more professions now, service-related businesses that do that. I would like to see us increase sales tax. That was the
proposal that I had the entire time this year was let's increase sales tax to 1% and still be lower than our surrounding states and get us to where we have a zero personal income tax. And you said there's some people that's going to say, hey, it's going to affect people that can't afford it or the low income people. People who make a tremendous amount of money spend more money than somebody that makes the money I make, or a retired school teacher or anybody else. So their number of their tax revenue would be based on their purchases. I think that's the only way that you can create fair and balanced taxes, and that's why you can generate a lot of money from cash businesses as well.
Thank you. Ms. Haddix, what policies would you recommend and support to help our low-income citizens in Kentucky?
Well, first off, I definitely think we need to stop some of the things that we've been trying to scare them with. A work restriction on welfare is just wrong without a place or for those people to work. We need to work with coming up with places that everyone can work up. Our kids need a living wage. I know my sister is a food worker, and she works 60, 80 hours a week for almost minimum. And that's not enough to pay for rent in Lexington, buy clothes, cars just added, they added restaurant fee. But we really need to do something to help out. One thing that is a problem is clean water. So I really don't think we should cut off people's water.
Thank you both. That concludes our original round of questions. To be sensitive to your time and commitments, we will now give each of you 2 minutes. You get 1 more minute. We'll double your time for you. 2 minutes for any closing remarks. Any other issues that you weren't able to address during our questions, feel free to do that, and we will begin with Mr. Carpenter.
Well, like I've said, this is tough to do in this short amount of time because there's been so many issues. And once you've served, there's so many issues that you've been faced with to try to make tough decisions. I've said that leadership isn't easy. To be a true leader and to create leadership, you've got to be willing to make tough decisions. And they're not always popular decisions. There's been times that some of my closest friends had got misinformation this year about pensions, for instance, and that they had a really tough time getting over the information that they got. But once they've allowed the smoke to settle and they saw what we actually did, and they called me at 10:30 on my way home from Frankfurt and said, so Jared, what's the deal? And I was able to actually tell them what we did and how we tried to help resolve a situation that's not been good for 35 years. Ed Worley had this seat, and Ed Worley stood on the Senate floor and said, we have to do something about pensions. He was the Democrat leader in the Senate during that time. He said, we have a problem, we have to do something about it. It's not been addressed. I don't always like the things the governor said this year. I don't support the things he said, and I've told people I apologize for that because that's not what I stand for. I don't think that's what our party stands for. But emotions this year has been really tough. It's been an emotional year. These have been hot topics. And so I tell people that I apologize for those issues. But where we're at right now, I'm proud of. We are able to put the most money in pension funds in the history of Kentucky. It's the first time in 35 years they've been fully funded. We put more money in the classroom and SEEK funding than in history. We've got almost $4,000 per pupil for students in high schools now. So, I mean, we're doing things to help our issues. We're doing things to help a lot of these problems. But that leadership is tough. You lose political capital to make those tough decisions. It's easy to act like it's Christmas up there and say you're going to give everybody money and do everything. But those tough decisions have to be made, and that's why I'm here. I'm willing to make those tough decisions, not for me or not for a lot of people in this room, but for my 2 little ones that I'm getting ready to go to in the ball game that are in the 8th grade and in the 3rd grade. The decisions we're making today is what's going to impact their future. And lastly, I just have to say I appreciate the opportunity for you to vote for me too. I can't leave that out, Susan.
Thank you. Ms. Haddix, you have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
All right, I hope you can tell that we're friends. So we are blessed with a campaign-only issue campaign, which is wonderful. Right. So we are very different, as you can already tell. So the need came to have somebody step up to run for the people, and that's what I have. I became a retired, empty-nested widow 3 years ago. So I had the time and the ability. I was a rocket scientist. I taught problem solving. So I am very, very good at taking information, looking for facts, actually dealing with and making decisions based on facts, not just what you feel like for the day. I'm here to represent the 80% of the people in Kentucky with under $250,000 a year that did get a tax increase. I'm here to represent the 50% of Kentuckians whose incomes are under $54,000 a year, who struggle to live paycheck to paycheck, and aren't really understood by the affluent politicians that we have these days. We know that people work long hours for very little pay, and they have to decide between paying the rent or the deductible and insulin. We actually had to do that. My husband was ill for 27 years. I was a caregiver for 20 of that. Through that time, I learned how to deal with the Social Security, disability, having to juggle immense medical bills. So I'm here to represent the people. I was born in 1962. It was the last year of the baby boomers. I watched on my new color TV that had knobs, our world being destroyed. America was split, but I saw us do the impossible. We put a man on the moon. So I'm here with hope to do the impossible.
Thank you both. Let's have a round of applause for our State Senate 34th District candidates. Thank you both for a great discussion, and good luck to you in the election.
Thank you.
We will now bring our candidates for state representative to the table.
I just stole it. I just stole his pad. I took your pad.
Welcome to all of our state representative candidates. We will go in a similar fashion to the previous candidates. Each of you will have 1 minute to make opening remarks, and we will start from my left, your right, and go down the table that way, and then for questions, we will go one way the first time and then reverse it and go back the other, so the order gets mixed just a little bit. We remind you that you will get a warning when you have 15 seconds left and a stop. You can finish your sentence, but do so quickly so we can stay on time and address all the issues and the questions that have been submitted today.
Would you excuse me for just 1 minute?
With the number of candidates, we want to make sure we have enough time to get through all of the questions and know how much time we're going to have for each of you.
Thank you.
All right. If we are ready to begin, again, this is your opportunity to have a 1 minute opening statement, and we will begin with Mr. Brenda.
I want to thank EKU and the Richmond Chamber for providing this opportunity. Appreciate each of you that came out tonight. My name's Travis Brenda. I live in Garrett County over in the Cartersville area. I'm in my 20th year of teaching down at Rockcastle, and I've attended Church on the Rock in Berea for almost 22 years. My wife and son are at his football practice tonight, so they're not with me, but my daughter is here. My son and daughter are the 5th generation to live and work on the family farm there in Garrett County. And I take a lot of pride in that, to be able to pass those characteristics on to them. It's been an exciting journey over the last few months. We've got to meet a lot of neat people. We've really had a good time. And I just ask for your consideration as we move closer to November 6th. Thank you.
Ms. Renfro, you will have 1 minute.
Okay. I'm Mary Renfro. I'm running for House of Representatives, District 71. The district is made up of Garrett, Rockcastle, and part of Madison County. I grew up in New York. I moved to South Florida, and then I came to Kentucky to go to Eastern University and got a social work degree in 1992. I'm self-employed. I have my own, I work for a company called A Unique Realty Company. I'm a realtor. And I've been married to my husband. He's over here in the red shirt. I've been married to Wayne for 25 years. Can you put your hand up? Okay, there he goes. And Ariana is my 12-year-old. Can you put your hand up, please? I have 6 children. I didn't set out to do that, but that's the way the Lord sent us that direction. We did foster care for a number of years, and I adopted 3 little girls. They were 2, 4, 6 special needs through the opiate crisis. And then last year I got another call from the state, and they said, would you consider taking another child? I thought, oh my God, now another one. One more sentence. Oh, and it's been a pleasure having those kids. It's the best thing in life.
Thank you. 1 minute for your opening remarks, Ms. Banks.
Thank you for having us. Really appreciate this. Okay, I guess I can talk into this. Thank you. I'm Pat Banks. I'm running for State Representative, District 73. There's a lot of reasons that I'm running at this time. A really important one is that I'm a grandmother, and public education is a huge, huge issue for me and for him. I believe our children need the best education that we can give them, a world-class education. I'm also a small business person. I've been an artist all of my life. I've taught in almost every school in the region. I've also been the Kentucky Riverkeeper and worked on water issues. And I am married to a retired teacher who is my lovely husband sitting over here. And I want to work for you.
Mr. Yates, 1 minute for your opening remarks.
My name is Les Yates. I am running for state representative in the 73rd district, which is all of Clark County, excuse me, all of Clark County, and basically the northeast portion of Madison County. I've been a resident of Clark County for around 25, 26 years, and for the past 18 years, my wife and I have ran a vinyl siding wholesale business, doors, windows, siding type thing. And the reason I got into this is many people like to go out and throw around that they are for the working people, that they're for the veterans, and they're for the small business people. Well, I am a small business owner, I am a veteran, and I'm still a working taxpayer. The main reason I'm getting into this is we cannot take 60 years of social decay and put this on the backs of our legal system to solve all the problems. Most of the problems that we see have been created.
Ms. Eves, 1 minute for your opening remarks.
My name is Morgan Eves, and I am your Democratic candidate for state representative of the 81st District. I'm a Madison County native, a graduate of Madison Central High School, an attorney, an elected member of the Richmond City Commission, and the granddaughter of a public school teacher who taught for over 47 years in rural Kentucky. And it was the legislature's treatment of my grandmother, the name calling and bullying by our governor, and the stress of whether her retirement would be safe that made me want to step up and work for change. Because our state government isn't working, not for children that need an education, or for loved ones, or for families who have loved ones with addiction, or for working people who want a fair and equitable tax system. And if we all want a better quality of life, this has to change. And I'm ready to step up and work for it, not just for me, but for each and every one of us to make sure we have a better future. Thank you to the Chamber for having us tonight and for all of you coming out to listen. I hope by the end of the evening I'll have earned your support. Thank you.
Ms. Frazier, 1 minute for your remarks.
Thank you for the time to be here tonight, and thank you for the Richmond Chamber of Commerce for hosting this event, so I have the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I don't think this is working. I'm Deanna Frazier. I'm a graduate of Madison Central High School. I'm a graduate also of Eastern Kentucky University. My husband Stephen is here tonight of almost 25 years, and I'm the mother of Jacob and John Frazier. I'm a small business owner, and I'm also a job creator. I'd like for you to know that my family's roots go deep into this county, and I only mention that because I think that it is important to know where you have been, to know where you have gone, where you are going. I can speak with you with confidence, not because I know everything, but in spite of it, together with you, our elected local officials, and the grit of a well-seasoned woman, I will make sure that Frankfort always knows that Madison County is in the house.
Thank you all. We will begin direct questions with some that each of our candidates will answer, and then if time allows, we will have a few that will be individual questions for each of the candidates. We will begin this round with Ms. Frazier. The first question is related to Kentucky's pension issues. What strategies would you support in solving the pension crisis?
First of all, I'd like to say that I'm glad that it was finally addressed. It is something that had been kicked down the road for many years, and so I'm thankful that it has been being funded 100% for the first time in a long time. I'd also like to say that I have skin in the game. This is something that affects me personally. My husband is a salaried employee at EKU, so I would like to see that there are some assurances that it's not just funded for this year, but that the continuation, that there are things that are put in place for successive years for the pension.
Ms. Eves, what strategies would you support in addressing our pension crisis?
I think it's been shown that historically we have inadequately funded our pensions. I would be in support of any legislation that would ensure elected officials don't have the ability to reach into our pension system and take out the money that is being earned by our public workers. And I'd also be in favor of revenue-raising measures like closing the gaps on special interest in corporations so that we can revamp our tax system so that it's fair and equitable for all people while raising revenue.
Thank you. Mr. Yates, same question, strategies that you would support to improve our pension problem.
Well, I think the first thing, it still is not fixed. It needs to be completely funded. And I agree with what the lady said. We need some way to keep these pension funds, keep them out of the hands of the government. I can relate to the teachers. I feel the same way about Social Security. It's their money. It's money they've paid in their entire life. I do agree, though, that they did do a good job of trying to fix the problem because it has not been addressed for 20 years. I think a fair tax, and then maybe the entire tax system, needs to be looked at, but we need a more fair tax system.
Ms. Banks, the same question. What strategies would you support to address the pension problem?
First of all, I would hope that we would have a pension bill that wasn't a sewer bill and that people really could talk about these issues. I would want to protect our pensions that we're paying into. And I think that the new hires need to be brought back into the system with the defined benefit plan. If we want to attract professional people, we have to have a dependable retirement system that they know that they can work towards. We also need to have a tax overhaul because what we value, what we spend our money on, tells us who we are. And giving a bunch of money back to rich people when our kids are needing more investment, when our services need more investment, this is not the time for a tax cut for the top 1%. or 5%.
Ms. Renfro, the same question, strategies you would support in addressing the pension problem.
Well, now that you all know I have 6 kids, so I'm very much into the education. And I know industrial hemp is legalized. However, with Jonathan Schell, he's made it was just on the TV the other day, he's made it if you are a full-time farmer, you have to be a full-time farmer, or an agriculture, a bachelor's in agriculture to grow hemp. Well, why would we have to make it like that when on the Google it says that you can get $60,000 an acre if you grow hemp? Well, that's a lot of money. I would like to do that. I'm not a full-time farmer. Maybe you'd like to have $60,000. So why can't we tax that and make our education system better and have the pension for everybody? It just doesn't make any sense not to do that. And I think we need to keep it the way it, well, I think we have to fund it, and I'm all for, even I've looked at different states, they offer bonuses to teachers, to sign-on bonuses. I mean, I've looked at Colorado, they offer these bonuses. If you're a teacher, you get a $2,000 bonus to sign on.
And Mr. Brenda, same question, strategies you would support to address the pension problem.
The problems with the pension was the fact that it was not funded properly for 15 out of 22 years. It was not a structural issue, it was a funding issue. There was an article came out from Kentucky Center for Economic Policy today by Jason Bailey that said over the last 20 years, the retirement systems have gained, I think, 6.2%. And over the last 5 years, they've gained over 9%. The funding needs to be there, not no big changes. The changes that were made in the pension bill and the sewer bill, Senate Bill 151, were basically providing less than 2% additional revenue. It's not going to make any changes in essence. The governor kept referring to a hole in the bucket. The hole in the bucket was in the top of the bucket, and people kept reaching in and grabbing handfuls of money. And that started back with Paul Patton. The funding, the systems were at 125%. He reached in and grabbed some, sorry. He reached in and grabbed a lot of money. Ernie Fletcher did the same after that. It's continued for 22 years.
Thank you. Mr. Brenda, we will begin this next round with you for questions. What are your priorities when it comes to education funding in the state of Kentucky?
Well, as an educator, I know how important public education is. I see every day students that do not have the resources. I met a young man today at school that I've not had in class, but got to work with a little bit, that is homeless in Rockcastle County. And he's just one of many. In the budget bill that went forward, even though the SEEK funding was increased to $4,000, there were other cuts. 6.25% cut to ESS, the Extended School Services, preschool, other cuts that are affecting our students, that are preventing them from having opportunities because they do not have the support system at home. We need to continue the funding that was there. When the money is adjusted for inflation, the funding that is currently in the next biennium still falls behind 2008, 2009 dollars.
Thank you. Ms. Renfro, same question. What are your priorities for funding education in our state?
Well, I am a school board member. I'm sure many of you know that. I've been on Madison County School Board for 6 years. I just saw in the newspaper just fairly yesterday that they are wanting to take the preschool out, the grant for the preschool. I think we need to have preschool. We were talking about it at the school board meeting the other day. It's so important for 3- and 4-year-olds to be in the school system, to start getting just the basics so we can kind of get with that. And then Madison County is also talking about building 2 area tech centers. I think almost, now I don't know about every county, but we need more of that. We need kids to learn plumbing, technical things, welding, different things that they can do besides go to college. Some want to do that. Some need to maybe want to do something else. I guess that's all.
Thank you. Ms. Banks, same question. What are your priorities in funding education in our state?
I would start with our youngest first. we might need to be looking at daycare. If we're expecting our young families to be out working, they need dependable childcare. And that could also work right into the preschool. And I think we need smaller classrooms, more aides. We want our schools to be safer, and I think we need to have more staff. I think we want to have avenues for our students. I kind of, as an artist, I kind of resent it when people say, well, let's have VOTEC for the kids that don't want to go to school. No, that's not why. It's everyone learns in a different way. And so if you provide different opportunities, if I could have learned electricity in school, I would have loved that. It fits into your, it helps you learn. So if we can have multiple avenues and multiple pathways for our kids, they can be creative, but we can teach them the process of learning and also prepare them for jobs and school.
Mr. Yates, the same question. What priorities do you have for funding education in Kentucky?
Well, I think first of all, we've been throwing money at these problems for what, 40, 50 years. I think that what we need to do is get the not just the teachers, but get the government retirement system, get it funded, and get that problem out of the way. And then I think that one of the good things that's going to come up, or has come up from this whole pension crisis, it's hard for people my age to understand how we have gotten from where we used to have discipline in schools to where we're at now. I think that it's time that we got to where we can get the management, if you will, get that out of the way, and let's let the teachers get back to teaching. This is a society problem, and we cannot expect the teachers by themselves to solve this problem without the support of the parents and the entire community.
Thank you. Ms. Eves, same question. Your priorities for funding education in our state.
Kentucky has its priorities for education all wrong. Our current legislative budget doesn't allow money for textbooks. Madison Central High School is using textbooks that are almost a decade old and that are bound together by duct tape. That is shameful. Our priority should be to invest in education, not just traditional education, but VOTEC, as Ms. Banks suggested, because every student learns differently. And not just primary and secondary education, but higher education. EKU, because of one budget, lost 96 jobs. The amount of money that puts into our community makes such a big difference here in Madison County. We need to reshift our priorities to providing money for things like textbooks, because Kentucky is a state where most children cannot afford access to a computer outside of school. We need to make sure every student has the funding to succeed. And right now we're doing a terrible job. So we need to reshift our priorities.
And Ms. Frazier, same question. What priorities do you have for funding education in Kentucky?
We have to fund education because it is simply an investment in our future. Every teacher that I know of goes above and beyond what they're asked of in their curriculum. They're dealing with mental health issues. They're dealing with the family issues. They're having to not only be the mentor for the student, but they're having to be the example. I am in favor of the vocational skills. There's 2 schools that are going to be built. I think that's going to be huge for our area. So whether you're going the vocational route or whether you're going the higher education route, we're going to have opportunity in our area. I think also we need to look at successful examples. For example, there's schools in Eastern Kentucky that have been very successful in their test scores. So we need to visit them and we need to see what they're doing to implement it in other districts that are falling behind. And as it pertains to our district, Madison County is in the business of education. It's an economic driver for our area. So whether it's at the elementary level or at the higher education level, it's something that's very important to us as Madison Countyans.
In light of our time and with the number of candidates we have here, that will conclude the questions that we will deliver to all the candidates. Of course, there are a number of issues that have been presented that we have not addressed. So if there's anything that you did not get a question that you would like to share with our audience and viewers, please use your closing statement to do that. We will allow each candidate 2 minutes to give a closing statement on any issues they would like to further comment on, introduce, or anything else about yourself that you would like to share with voters. We will begin with Mr. Brenda.
Again, I want to thank EKU and Richmond Chamber for providing this opportunity. I appreciate the support that I had throughout the primary and just from across District 71. I look forward to hopefully being the voice for not just Garrett and Rockcastle, but Madison. My kids have been involved in activities in all 3 counties, and I told my wife several months ago that Madison County, Garrett County, and Rockcastle County is where our life is. And all 3 of those counties are very important to us. Ms. Renfro had mentioned about the industrial hemp bringing in $60,000 per acre. That is not an accurate number. I spoke with someone just about a week ago that is currently growing hemp. And he said, kind of like tobacco, it all depends on the weight of the crop. He looks at, on a good year, if it weighs good, maybe $8,000 or $9,000 per acre. That is a significant difference in that revenue. He said if it's a bad year, he may be doing good to make to get $4,000. That does not include the expenses that it takes to produce that crop and get that crop to market. As I've done some research, I know there has been some mention about legalizing marijuana. The young people's brains are developing until about age 25. I am not in favor of making marijuana more readily accessible to our young people while their brains are still developing. The CBDs that have shown most promise in medical is what can come from the hemp, and the marijuana is not needed for that. Thank you.
Ms. Renfro, 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Okay. I am for unions. I think more and more factories, businesses, we need unions to be coming into Madison County. A lot of these jobs are closing up. As we see them, they're closing up because nobody's standing up for them. They're losing their jobs. Train was just on the internet today. I think they're losing a couple hundred. I am for the farmers. I don't know where you got your information. I don't care really even. If you look under Google, it does say 60,000, and that's perfectly fine that you say whatever. Jonathan Shell is increasing his acreage now. Instead of 550 acres, he's going to 1,000 acres. It's a big deal. There must be something in it. I don't think he's just doing it because he wants to get out there in the sun. But anyways, that's whatever, here nor there. The opioid crisis is huge. I have 4 kids from the opioid crisis. They're got to figure something out with this, the opioid crisis. There's more and more kids going into foster care at a higher rate. There's almost 10,000 kids in there. If you wanted a 4-year-old or a 2-year-old or one from the hospital, you could become a social worker and you can get these kids. They're coming all over the place. They've got lots and lots and lots of problems. And it's not fair. It's not fair that these adults are causing these problems and these kids are all mixed up. And now we've got to figure out what can we do to help these kids pull themselves back up. And I'd love you for your vote. Thank you.
Ms. Banks, you will have 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Thank you. If I forget, I do have signs in the back of my my van if anyone would like to meet me afterwards. We've talked about a lot of issues, everything from our public schools, our pensions, the defined benefits for pensions, fair wages, equal pay, clean air and clean water, and they all have something in common. They touch all of us. It's huge in this community, and they're all connected. You can't work on one thing and not address some of these other issues. And part of it is in getting a budget that works so you can address all of these things that we need for a healthy community. This isn't about cutting taxes. This is about investing in our children. This is about investing in our health. This is about protecting our air and water. And that's good for business as it is for our own community. Because businesses don't go to brownfields, and Flint, Michigan is probably not beating businesses off with a stick right now. So we really, the environment is our resource for us now, but also for our children and our grandchildren. So all of these things are connected, and we will be a stronger community and a healthier community with the opioid also worked into, it also touches everything. So seeing these connections and then really thinking about what our budgets are and spending the money wisely and carefully, but with purpose, is really important.
Thank you. Mr. Yates, 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
I guess when I hear about all the things that need to be done and we start talking about funding, the first question that comes to my mind is, where does all this funding come from? You know, over the last 50 years, we've actually seen the destruction of the American family. We've seen attacks on the Christian religion. We've seen the destruction of our entire education system. We've seen the destruction of the veterans' health care system. We have even experienced watching criminal acts by our own federal agencies on television. The backbone of this nation has always been the working taxpayer. They're the fuel that runs the engines of this country. Yet the working taxpayers, they're the most overregulated, least representative group of people that there are. Of course, as a working taxpayer, their interest would always be at the top of my agenda. Now, one thing too, I think that we all have to understand, when I read up and I started getting into this, I read up the definition of a state representative, and it's my understanding that a state representative is not a person that represents Frankfort to the people. It's a person that represents the people to Frankfort. So if you, with your help, your vote in November, what I would like to try to do is take the task of trying to give the government back to the people.
Ms. Eves, 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
Thank you again for all of you who came out tonight to listen to us, and for the Chamber for hosting us. Madison County is my home, and it's the only place I see a future for myself, or the only place I see a future for my children. But over the past few legislative sessions, that future has been put in doubt. Our public education system is under attack. As I said before, our students right here in Madison County are using textbooks that are bound together by duct tape because our legislature does not see the need to invest in our students. Our priorities are skewed, and Frankfort is suffering from a severe lack of leadership that is hitting us right here at home. Again, we have lost, just from one budget, 96 jobs at EKU. That is money in our local economy that we no longer have because Frankfort does not see the necessity to educate our people. I'm not for that because it doesn't help anyone in this room. It takes money away from us. We're going to need to raise revenue. And yes, we're going to need to do things like tax the horse industry, close loopholes for special interests and corporations, and yes, medical marijuana and gaming will have to be legalized, and we can fuel our classrooms and rehabilitation centers for opioid addicts with that money. Those are common sense measures that help all of us and hurt none of us. I can only get to Frankfort with your support, and on November 6th, I would be honored if I had your vote for state representative. Thank you so very much.
And Ms. Frazier, 2 minutes for your closing remarks.
I don't have a comment about any certain topic, but I just want you to know that any issue that would to come before me, that I would ask 3 questions. Is it something that's fair? Is it something that makes sense? And is it something that benefits the citizens of Madison County? So that's how I would approach all of these different issues. But at the start of this process, I said that I would listen, and that's what I've done. But more importantly, I want you to know what I haven't done. I haven't listened to people that have special interests. I haven't listened to people that are trying to buy interest or buy influence. I've listened to your concerns about health care, about education, and about taxes. I've listened to your concerns about the drug epidemic that's plaguing our community. I've also listened to your concerns and frustration about the political process, about rhetoric and theater and drama. Madison County is in need of a voice that can be independent and not beholden to any one person or any one party. For me, it's always about the people. It's about listening and doing right for Madison County every single day. Much can be accomplished when you don't care who gets the credit. I won't let parties stand in the way of truth, and frankly, I don't have the heart to let you down. I'm Deanna Frazier, and I'm asking for your vote and for the privilege to represent you as your next state representative.
Thank you to all our candidates for the 71st, 73rd, and 81st District. Let's give them a round of applause for an excellent discussion. Thank you so much for your time. We will continue and end the evening with candidates for Judge of the Court of Appeals.
Good to see you, Jared, Bobby, Travis.
We have two candidates for the Judge of the Court of Appeals 5th District, Rob Johnson, who was not able to be here this evening, and Pamela Goodwine. We have received a video statement from Rob Johnson that we will play for you now, and then we will hear some remarks from Judge Goodwine.
Good evening. First, I want to thank my fellow members of the Richmond Chamber of Commerce for having this event tonight, and also the staff. Second, I want to apologize for being here by way of video tonight. I had an event that was scheduled over in Franklin County for some time now, and it's actually in my honor, and so it's an event that I needed to be at. But I do appreciate the opportunity that you've given me to present to you all by video, and I appreciate your patience as well. I'm Judge Rob Johnson, and since March of 2017, I have been representing you on the Kentucky Court of Appeals. Before that, I was the circuit judge for Bourbon, Scott, and Woodford counties for about 12 years. During most of that same period of time, I was appointed by the Chief Justice of Kentucky to be the Chief Regional Circuit Judge for the Bluegrass region, and also elected by my peers to be the Chief Circuit Judge for the 14th Judicial Circuit. I'm married to Rebecca Johnson, and we have 5 children: Benjamin, Sam, Caleb, Hannah, and Beth, ranging in ages from 20 to 9 years old. I'm a proud graduate of Georgetown College and also the University of Kentucky College of Law. I'm the best qualified candidate for this position because I have already been doing the job for the past 1.5 years. My judicial philosophy is strictly to interpret the law, not to make the law. I've been a well-respected circuit court judge for about 12 years, and I believe that I share your common Kentucky values. I'm a law and order judge. This is why the Kentucky Fraternal Order of Police has chosen to endorse me in this race. It's also why the former chief prosecutor in my opponent's court chose to endorse me. His name is Ray Larson. Now I'd like to read you a post that a good friend of mine put on Facebook just about a week ago. And I do this because I think it's important that people who are not from the county that I live in have an opportunity to kind of have a little bit more information about who I am. This was written by Darlene Wilson. I didn't ask her to do it. I just saw it on Facebook last week. She's someone that I've worked with for about 20 years to try to give more opportunities to the children in a minority neighborhood in Georgetown. She writes, "Please share and most importantly vote for Judge Rob Johnson. Most of all, he will see you in public and actually speak, wave, smile. His wife is the same way. I say this because most people in powerful positions only acknowledge you when it's voting season, not Judge Rob Johnson. Vote, vote, vote to keep an honest, fair man of God get reelected. He helps anyone he can, even in the hood, as well as his family. You see, he doesn't think he's above the less fortunate and actually comes out and helps, as well as his wife and children. He's a great family man, role model, integrity, Christian. I think it's important for you also to know that I'm very active in my community. In addition to being an advisor for the Ed Davis Community Incorporated, I have been on the board of directors of our local Chamber of Commerce. I have been a coach for the Youth Soccer League, sometimes coaching as many as 2 teams in 1 year. Also the president at one time of the Youth Soccer Association. I've been on the boards of several educational facilities and also helped out with the Boy Scouts of America, sometimes being an advisor for the merit badges and going on some of their trips with my oldest son, Benjamin, right before he got his Eagle Scout. And so I just think it's important for you also to know how active that a judge is in the community in addition to the hard work that we do on the court. Again, thank you for the opportunity that you've given me to speak to you by way of video tonight. I ask at this time that you decide to vote for Judge Rob Johnson to keep me on the Kentucky Court of Appeals. Thank you.
Since Judge Johnson could not be here tonight, we will not take questions, but we will allow Judge Goodwine to have 10 minutes of time to share remarks and any statements that she would like to give at this time. Judge Goodwine.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I am Judge Pamela Goodwine, and I want to thank the Richmond Chamber of Commerce and EKU, as well as our moderators, for hosting this forum. I also am grateful to all of you who came out and attended the forum. I am running for the Kentucky Court of Appeals, the 5th Appellate District, which is made up of Madison County, as well as 10 surrounding counties. This position is very, very important to me. I did not want to miss this opportunity to come out and talk to you about why I believe I am the best candidate for this position. Serving as a trial judge for 19 years, I have gained the ultimate breadth and depth of knowledge. I have gained the experience necessary, making me the best and most qualified candidate for this position. I am prepared to put that experience and that dedication to work for you as one of your judges on the Kentucky Court of Appeals. I have placed the highest priority on diligence, honesty, and integrity, as well as a comprehensive understanding of the laws of this Commonwealth, first as a district judge and now as a circuit judge. My continued reputation for being tough but fair, as well as professional, earned me the prestigious honor of Trial Judge of the Year by the Kentucky Justice Association in 2012, as well as Outstanding Young Lawyer Award by the Fayette County Bar Association in 2001, and also the honor of being inducted into the Carol Martin Gatton College Hall of Fame. First, I will tell you about my passion to serve on the Kentucky Court of Appeals, and then I will tell you what makes me the most qualified candidate. I have a passion for the law, a commitment to excellence, and the strength and drive to excel at every level of the judiciary. It is my faith, my work ethic, and values were instilled in me by my parents from a very young age and continue to be the driving influences in my life today. I have strong ethics and conscience which guide my life decisions personally and professionally. It has been my professional goal to ascend Kentucky's judicial hierarchy, a dream which began as a 17-year-old in Youngstown, Ohio. You see, I was born to a 17-year-old who gave me up for adoption, who placed me in foster care. And I eventually was adopted as an infant by my parents, who were 56 and 58 at the time. And though they had 8th grade educations, and though I was raised in the inner city and attended public schools, my parents worked hard to provide everything that I needed. But they made sure that I knew I had to work for what I wanted. And since the age of 17, I knew I wanted to be a judge. My daddy always taught me that I could do and be whatever I wanted to do and be. I persevered through many of life's challenges and have worked hard to overcome obstacles and achieve my goals. Serving on the Kentucky Court of Appeals is one of those goals. As valedictorian of my high school class, I earned a full-ride scholarship to Carnegie Mellon. And as I began preparing for my college career, my father was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. My father had given up his retirement years so that I might have a chance at life, and I gave up my scholarship to take care of him. He passed away 6 months later. My mother was murdered within a year after my father's death. My uncle, my father's brother, who I loved and trusted, invited my mother to his home and shot her in the back of the head. He was found mentally incompetent to stand trial and committed to a mental institution. He was released and killed again. Shortly after my mother's death, I became deathly ill myself, and I thought it was from grief of losing both my parents at such a young age. But suffering from debilitating symptoms for 2 years and seeing many, many doctors, I knew it was more than grief. I was finally diagnosed with a severe case of advanced Crohn's disease. And after 5 surgeries, a complete ileostomy, and doctors telling me that I would never survive, and that if I did survive, I would never work again. But that wasn't my goal, nor my dream, nor was it an acceptable fact. I knew when I survived, I knew I wanted to work hard to achieve my dreams. And even though the doctor said I would need to be on disability, that was not an option. I went on through rehab to relearn how to do the basic things in life. Everything from combing my hair to applying makeup and feeding myself. But I went on to become a 2-time alum of the University of Kentucky. Since I have overcome significant obstacles in my life and having nothing handed to me, I hold others accountable for their actions as much as I do myself. That is my passion. And now I will tell you my qualifications to serve on the Kentucky Court of Appeals. As I said earlier, I am the most qualified candidate to serve in that capacity. In my 19 years of dedicated service as a judge, I have tried more cases than any other judge in the 5th Appellate District, including more capital murder cases than any judge in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. I have tried a wide variety of cases, including multiple class action lawsuits, several mass tort and construction cases, medical malpractice cases, and motor vehicle cases. And while every circuit judge has the same jurisdiction, not all circuit judges try those types of cases. Serving on the circuit court for the past 15 years and district court the 4 years prior, as well as my work in the administrative realm prior to that, I have the experience to review and rule on all cases on the Court of Appeals. Serving as Chief Regional Circuit Judge for Fayette County has also given me the skills to manage the many administrative responsibilities within the judiciary with increased efficiency and effectiveness. I remain dedicated to being diligent, honest, prepared, and independent. The role of judges is to interpret the law fairly and administer justice consistently, providing a fair and equitable opportunity for all. And I do that daily in my courtroom and will continue to do so on the Court of Appeals. I remain committed to upholding the laws of the Commonwealth of Kentucky and to applying the law equally to every individual without regard to race, gender, religion, political affiliation, socioeconomic status, or sexual orientation. I do not allow political affiliation to influence my rulings. I have been registered independent for 19 years. Justice is for all. Everyone who enters the halls of justice should leave feeling as though justice was served. I strive for continuous improvement personally and professionally. I am hardworking and conscientious in my knowledge and preparedness for every aspect of the judicial proceedings and the law. Attorneys frequently say they appreciate and respect my knowledge, thoroughness, and professionalism in handling cases even when outcomes were not favorable to them. I am also often commended for my effective communication skills with all litigants, attorneys, legal staff, as well as my organizational skills ensuring efficient and effective proceedings for all involved, which will serve me well on the Kentucky Court of Appeals. Ladies and gentlemen, my entire professional career has been in the legal profession. Beginning as a court stenographer, working my way through college after my father's death, I have worked hard every step of the way to learn all I possibly can and ascend the judiciary with increasing levels of responsibility. I also have a unique vantage point since I have seen the judicial system from the other perspective after my mother was murdered. I have a passion for the law, a commitment to excellence, and the strength and drive to succeed and excel at every level of the judiciary. I too have endorsements, and they come from the Kentucky State AFL-CIO, the Bluegrass Labor Council, as well as the People's Campaign. Because service to my community is a very important part of my life. I am ready to put my experience and my dedication to work for you, the citizens of Madison County, to work on the Court of Appeals. I am Judge Pamela Goodwine, and I respectfully ask for your vote on November 6th.
Thank you, Judge Goodwine, for your remarks here today, and we thank Judge Johnson for his video submission. Thank you to all of you for participating in this, by attending, by submitting questions, and by watching online as well. We do remind you that Election Day is Tuesday, November 6th. Please be sure to verify your voter registration and polling locations. We don't care who you vote for, but please vote.